Hello Malaysia and welcome back to the second season of Medical Today. I'm Jared Ratnam. Of course, we are excited about the second season simply because we have a lot of great topics coming your way in the second season of Medical Today. Of course, we'll be covering a range of various discussions with related health topics, and we'll be having subject matter experts follow us throughout the season. But to start it off today, we have Chinwei Chia, who is the CEO of HMI Group. Now, for those of you who don't know who HMI Group is, they own Mahkota Medical Center in Malacca and the Regency Specialist Hospital in Johor. And the CEO is here with us to give us an insight as to what their hospital or their centers do right here in Malaysia. Wei Chia, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here on the first episode of the second season. That was tough. Well, you're in the medical industry.
That's right.
Now, how did you gravitate towards the medical industry?
Well, I would say, growing up, my father's a doctor. My mother was an academic turned businesswoman. And, I always felt that healthcare was something that was part of me as I grew up.
Right.
And at the same time, being younger and, of course, idealistic as always, I felt that I wanted to do something that would positively impact people.
Right. So when you were in school or when you got to tertiary education level, did you think about medicine?
Well, I did do internships in a hospital. So I think I was, looking at, whether I wanted to go into medicine or work within healthcare. And I think ultimately I felt that, being in a more back-end administration role, what I could do, is actually a lot more, for the community and working together very closely in partnership with doctors, of course.
I guess being a CEO, your job then is to put forth a vision for of course, the people under you.
Yes.
And, to have a vision for the next 5 years or 10 years. Now, with the development of healthcare nationally and internationally, what's your vision at this point?
Well, I think our vision is really to help improve the health of people and the health of communities through our commitment to excellence in medical care as well as healthcare education.
Well, and when you say that, a lot of people talk about the same thing.
That's right.
But there must be something, a biting point for people, or rather the clients out there.
Of course. I think quality is the most basic thing that any patient would look for. So quality would be in terms of the hospital processes, training and competency of our staff, of course the expertise of doctors, and I think ultimately underlying it all would be the facilities and the technologies and the centers of excellence in the different medical disciplines that we bring in.
Right, and with the studies you've done and the research you've put forward with regards to what's happening in the health industry, now help us understand what's happening in this region with regards to how far we've come forward with medicine as opposed to what's happening internationally.
Well, I think Malaysia's healthcare system is very sound and very strong. And I think recently in the global rankings, Malaysia healthcare comes up amongst tops, in terms of,
Malaysia.
Definitely. In terms of, the quality and accessibility of healthcare to the people. So for us, I think as a group, we have 2 hospitals, Mahkota Medical Center in Malacca, Regency Specialist Hospital in Johor. And what we're trying to do is, of course, expand our hospitals in terms of the facilities, bringing new technologies and medical equipment so that we can offer, the latest in healthcare for our patients. And, of course, build up, a really strong team of doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals through continuous training and development, through arranging, even international fellowships or training opportunities, so that, back here in Malaysia, we can really offer the best to every single one of our patients.
Right, but putting together a team is a very tricky thing.
Yes.
Putting together a team which works together seamlessly. Did you find it hard to put together a team in Malaysia?
Well, of course, there is a global shortage, of medical professionals, healthcare professionals, and nurses. But I find myself in a very privileged position to be working with a really great team of people. And I believe, that as we invest in our people, people respond positively to it as well. And healthcare is, anyone can invest in facilities and equipment, but it's really the people that make a difference. And it's the people that ultimately are the ones rendering care to the patient. So our internal philosophy is when we take care of our people take care of our patients well.
Essentially, when you bring people into a team, you want to walk them through the core values of your organization.
Yes, that's right.
Now let's delve into the core values of your organizations here in Malaysia.
Well, we want to provide the best care to the patient. So we actually have 3 core values. First is compassion, second is competence, third is collaboration. I think compassion just stems from all of our innate belief that, we want to help people. We are here to support everyone through their healthcare journey. We know it's not easy, and we know the emotions of going through our patients and their family members or friends as they are within the hospital. So I think compassion is something where sometimes just a heartfelt human touch is all that's needed, okay? Of course, that ties in very strongly with competence. We need to have that professional knowledge, the skills, in order to render the best care possible to the patient. And then last but not least is collaboration. That means getting the patient and their family involved in their own personal care journey, involving, the doctors, nurses, and everyone else as part of the team to take care of the patient, and working with the community, to reach out, because we strongly believe prevention is better than cure.
Right.
So if we can share more knowledge, we share because we care, right, about the health of our communities. If we have less people coming into the hospital, I actually think that's a good thing.
I'd like to go back to compassion because that's something that's lacking, or a lot of people, critics say that's lacking within the industry. We know them as people, doctors know them as patients.
That's
so
right.
That's changing now.
Yes.
And within your organization, within the center and also the hospital, how do you enforce that, or how do you make sure people follow proper SOPs and KPIs with regards to finding a balance between compassion and doing their professional work?
Well, I think that's where, everyone's playing that balancing game.
Right.
But of course, first but not, the most important thing ultimately is still quality care. So as a hospital, we have policies and processes in place. We have medical committees, advisory boards, so that we make sure that, the care that we're delivering is in line with international and national norms. So I think quality, in terms of making sure the medical care and the healthcare support is good, that's the focus. However, at the same time, a patient's experience is not just about the medical treatment itself. Healing, is holistic. It's not just about, getting the surgery done or, getting that issue treated, but it's also about how they feel through the process. Do they feel supported? Are they in the right frame of mind so that they can rest and recover properly? So on that front, as a group, we're actually now in a process of rolling out a service excellence project. We're involving a lot of people. We're getting feedback from patients directly. And our team are sitting there with us as we're talking to patients to get their feedback. And I think it's been a really great experience to hear from patients themselves, rather than trying to, do something we think they want.
Right. With being here in Malaysia, with 2 centers, one is the MMC and the Regency Specialist Hospital.
Yes.
Within Malaysia, what are the advantages of having centers like this in Malaysia at this point, post May 9th?
at both of our hospitals, what we try to do is actually be as comprehensive in a range of services that we offer as possible. What that means is we actually build up centers of excellence in disciplines such as cancer, heart, neurosurgery, orthopedics, women and children, emergency services. So in both of our hospitals, we have actually identified key areas of focus that each hospital will be good at. In order for that to happen, we work with a team of doctors, but we also actually try to collaborate and get inputs from international organizations or university hospitals as well, so that we're actually, able to kind of be in line and benchmark what's happening out there. Recently, we also have been, doing our own internal benchmarking of results. That means medical outcomes. Right. Versus other hospitals overseas.
In the next 30 seconds, what's your message to viewers of BNC with regards to the medical show right here on BNC, or the second season of Medical Today?
Well, as a group, we strongly believe that prevention is better than cure. So what we're trying to do with this program is to share more knowledge. I think we have a great lineup of doctors, as well as our healthcare professionals as well, to share their knowledge with the community. Yeah, so with that, we hope that people will take care better take care of their health, and together we can build a healthier society.
Right. On that note, we'd like to thank Chinwei Chia, the CEO of HMI Group, who joins us today on episode 1 of season 2, Medical Today, right here on BNC. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back just after a break. Hello and welcome back to Medical Today. I'm Jared Ratnam. From where we were, we talked about a hospital group in Malaysia. We now move on to managing cancer as a chronic illness. Now, recently we had an interview done about the importance of cancer management, and it was hosted by Nurata Amin. She spoke to Dr. Chong Kwat Jet, a resident consultant from Mahkota Medical Center, and also Dr. Muhammad Ali Abdul Kadir, a resident consultant from Mahkota Medical Center, and they had a very interesting conversation. Let's take a look at that interview right here on Medical Today.
When Googled the word cancer, we found that there were 908 million results. It is, in fact, the most searched medical condition in the medical vocabulary. Well, some say it's the worst nightmare. Welcome to Medical Today, Dr. Chong. So, what is cancer?
Well, Akta, cancer is a basket consists of more than 100 types of different diseases. But all these diseases share one common feature, which is abnormal growth. So this abnormal growth makes the tumor grow and grow. It becomes bigger. When it becomes too big, it destroys the neighboring structures. And not only it destroys the neighboring structures, it can even spread to other parts of the body. So that kind of condition or this kind of disease, we call it cancer. Well, Akta, you mentioned that cancer is the worst nightmare. Well, I would say that the answer is yes and no. It can be yes, it can be the worst nightmare if a patient has an incurable advanced disease, advanced cancer. But however, most early cancers are already curable. So if a patient has an early cancer, it's not the worst nightmare. In fact, if you refer to the Department of Statistics in Malaysia, if you follow 2018, last year's statistics, cancer, in fact, is the 5th leading cause of death in Malaysia. So I probably would disagree in some aspect, which is it may not be the worst nightmare.
I agree with you, Dr. Chong. So Malaysia has about 20,000 cancer cases per year, and it's not but one of the leading causes of death. So It is curable, yeah, but we'll come back to that later. But what actually causes cancer?
Well, there are many factors once present makes a person having higher risk of developing cancer. So those factors, we call them risk factors. I would broadly classify the risk factors into two big groups. One is non-modifying factors, i.e. factors that you cannot do anything about. For example, the leading cause of, the leading risk factor of cancer is actually old age. There's nothing we can do about it. As a person grows older, the risk of developing cancer is higher. In fact, that is the #1 cause of cancer. Another risk factor of cancer is hereditary factors, i.e. factors that we inherit from our parents. But luckily, this only constitutes about 5 to 10% of the causes of cancer. Well, there's another big group where it is related to our behavior, our lifestyle. Those risk factors are modifiable. For example, smoking. In fact, smoking causes 22% of cancer deaths. And that is one very important risk factor that we can easily modify. The second modifiable risk factor is obesity, i.e. overweight, too much weight. Yeah? Others are poor diet, low fiber diet, too much of red meat, too much of processed meat, and also sedentary lifestyle, lack of physical activities, and also too much of alcohol. Those kind of lifestyle behaviors makes a person more susceptible to get cancer.
Right. Okay. But those are actually the common questions. It's just, I think we Malaysians need to practice it, right?
Sure.
But can we touch a little bit on people who are undergoing cancer treatment, yeah? What would be your first line of advice to the patients? And let's talk about someone who has, of course, stage 3 and 4.
Yeah, sure. I think I would look at it in an individualized manner because every patient's needs or fear or questions they have in their mind are different. So I always tailor-make my approach to a specific patient because we are all unique. And if a patient has got stage 3 cancer, and the biggest fear, let's say, is whether my disease is curable or not, I would say that stage 3 is still curable. So I will emphasize on that. What I normally do when I face a patient is I explain the whole situation to the patient. I will tell the patient what are the things we can do to help the patient to overcome cancer. I think that's the best assurance or reassurance that you can do for the patient. I will give the patient a roadmap. For example, say for this particular patient, you need to do chemotherapy first. After chemotherapy, maybe you follow by surgery or subsequently maybe radiotherapy. So I give a whole roadmap to the patient. I will explain to the patient what are the potential side effects that can happen, what are the costs involved, and then I always encourage all my patients, ask me questions that's still troubling you so that I can clear your doubts. I think that is the best advice I can do for the patient.
Right. So let's say if I've been diagnosed with cancer, stage 1 or stage 2. So what happens during chemotherapy? And what are the side effects of chemotherapy?
Correct, okay. Let's say a young lady has got a stage 1 or 2 breast cancer. Number 1, cancer, as I said, is a heterogeneous, it's a different types of diseases. Yeah, even stage 1 or 2 breast cancer can get different treatment or requires different treatment. A patient of stage 1 breast cancer may not need chemotherapy. So we have to explain to the patient what are the treatments necessary, what are the treatments needed to overcome the cancer. And if chemotherapy is needed, I will explain to the patient, let's say, you need 6 cycles of chemo, each time once over 3 weeks. Each chemotherapy might take about 1 hour or so intravenously, and then you might develop, let's say, chemotherapy for breast cancer, may develop hair loss, may get some nausea, vomiting, might feel tired for a few days, but usually they get some bad days for a few days, not more than a week. And there are always medications that we can give to reduce those side effects. Yeah, I'll explain to the patient those things.
Okay, that is the physical part, of course. But how about their emotional state of mind? What are your countermeasures to stabilize these factors while they are undergoing the process?
We understand cancer is not cough and cold. Most patients, when we inform them they have cancer, usually the first reaction will be shock and disbelief. Doctor, are you sure? Have you made a mistake? Are you sure? And then you have to tell them a few times sometimes. And after a while, the reality will sink in. Then usually they get a bit depressed, they feel sad. They might also be very anxious. So the best thing to overcome those issues is to explain to the patient the real situation. Let's say stage 1. I think the best countermeasure for the anxiety is to assure the patient this is curable. And whatever treatments that you do, the side effects are just temporary. Yeah, you get worse before you become better. Sometimes if the patient is, let's say, very depressed or very anxious despite all our assurances, then I may refer the patient to our psychologist or even our psychiatrist. We also have a patient support group at our hospital where patients or fellow patients or cancer survivors can talk to each other and can help each other emotionally, physically, and other aspects.
All right, let's say worst case scenario.
Yeah.
If the cancer is in a stage that is incurable, so is it still worth treating?
I think
Doctor?
so. I think so. Because if left untreated, that incurable cancer will cause a lot of damage, which means it leads to a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and the lifespan of the untreated patient will be very short. Whereas with treatment, even if the disease is not curable, with the treatment, you allow the patient to live longer and live better. So I think it's very much needed to have certain treatments.
I think one of the easiest treatment that the family or the patient, him or herself, would actually practice is their food intake, right? So how about their food intake? What should they actually eat and why?
Yeah, again, it's tailor-made, it's personalized. If a patient, let's say, is very thin, not eating well, or having head and neck cancer, cannot swallow very well, perhaps the diet for that particular patient should be a soft diet, high calorie, high fat diet. Whereas if a patient is already obese, eating too much, we should tell the patient, cut down on your calories, more fiber. So it's all individualized. And at our hospital, we also have dietitians who can advise our patient on the best diet for that particular patient.
All right. So is there such thing as a follow-up despite completing all the cancer treatments? And if there is, why?
Yeah, we do. We always have follow-ups for patients after treatment, whether it's early cancer or late-stage cancers. I think the main reason for follow-up is, number one, we want to see what happened to our patient after our treatments. Are they doing well? Are there still any concerns that needs to be addressed? Any side effects? And patients are always fearful of cancer recurrence. So during follow-ups, we'll detect and to make sure there are no cancer recurrence. If there is, then it has to be managed appropriately. Right. And patients always feel much better and reassured once they see the doctor again.
So Dr. Chong, I would like to know as well, what would be your advice for the next 20,000 people who are waiting for some sort of cancers to hit them?
Okay, I would say, I will give you a broad picture first, just like any disease. There are four strategies. Number one is prevention. Number two is early detection.
Yeah, such as?
For example, cancer of the cervix, which is still quite a common cancer in Malaysia. You can easily do a PET smear. It's a very simple procedure that can detect cancer at very early stage. In fact, it can even detect the stage before it becomes cancerous. So if you could treat that stage, of course you can cure the patient.
Right, and is there...
And then there are other diseases, for example, let's say breast cancer. The easiest way to detect the earliest cancer will be mammography, a mammogram. And women should also practice breast self-examination. If they find a lump in the breast, they should consult a doctor. If a woman is not capable of or not very well versed in self-examination, should at least visit a doctor once a year for breast examination. And then if you're talking about symptoms or signs of cancer, first of all, we have to recognize there are some disease, there are some cancers have no symptoms or signs until late stage, especially hidden cancer that's hidden in the body, let's say lung cancer, pancreatic cancer, or cancer of the ovary, they are inside, you don't feel anything. Whereas there are certain cancers will come with early symptoms. Let's say cancer of the voice box. Usually it happens early. If one gets, let's say, hoarseness of voice for more than 2 weeks, one should visit a doctor. That could be a sign of early cancer of the larynx, voice box. Cancer of the womb, patients will present with vaginal bleeding. Let's say post-menopausal, already no more menses and still coming with abnormal vaginal bleeding. That could be an early sign of cancer of the womb. So different cancer has got different signs and symptoms. It all depends on the site of the cancer.
Right. So I think we better change our lifestyle, more exercise, and of course our diet. Thank you, Dr. Chong, for joining us on Medical Today. I'm Maktaman. Welcome to Medical Today, Dr. Ali. So can you briefly share with us what is PET-CT?
Thank you very much for having me. Actually, PET-CT stands for positron emission tomography and computerized tomography. It's actually a combination of two equipment, state-of-the-art equipment, to provide information about detection of cancer and other diseases in the body. So it will actually tell us whether the body has got, it will detect ongoing cancer process. The important thing is the ongoing cancer process, right? And it will give us functional information as well. Okay, and this PET-CT actually has been in Malaysia for quite some time, but only recently the number of machines has increased in numbers because of the people have begun to realize the usefulness of this technology.
Right. So is it the future or the state of the art to detect diseases in the body? And if so, can it detect all diseases or only certain diseases?
Right. So when we acquired the machine, we had actually the latest in the market, right? And it actually detect most cancer, but not all. It detects most cancer, and it will answer the question posed by most referring doctor. Where is the cancer? How big is the cancer? How aggressive is the cancer? And whether there is good response to the therapy after treatment. So we'll be able to detect whether there's good response and whether there's any recurrence later on, say 6 months down the line or 1 year down the line. So actually it is a very, very good technology to have it in any centers that provide cancer management.
Yeah. Right. So what are the principles behind the scanning modality?
Right. I think for principle, I'll better use this picture, which does more 1,000 words, right? So basically what happened is we have this producer of the radioactive material. The radioactive material is produced by this cyclotron, and it will be sent to the hospital, and we inject the radioactive material to the patient, and then this is the scanner, right? And with the scanner, we'll be able to come up with the pictures, and I will report it and we send it to the referring doctor. So this is basically the overall basic principle of it. The other thing is that we use radioactive glucose. So the thing is, all cells, cancer means abnormal multiplication of cells, faster rate and so on, right? So all cells actually, when they multiply, they will require energy. And as we know, you and I know, glucose is the basic form of energy, right? If we are tired, we drink glucose, we somehow get energized. So if I have glucose, I introduce it into the body, more of the glucose will go to the cancer cell as compared to the normal cell. Right? Because normal cells also need to grow, so they will require glucose as well. But once I introduce into the body, there is no way of me detecting the flow of glucose into the cell. So what I do is actually I tag the glucose with the radioactive material. This is where it called radioactive glucose or FDG, fluorine 18 FDG, fluorine 18 fluorodeoxyglucose. So if I introduce this radioactive glucose into the body, more of the radioactive glucose will go to the cancer cell as compared to the normal cell. Now the beauty of it is it will go to the cancer cell, it gets trapped in the cancer cell, it cannot come out. So the more it goes, the more radioactive is the cell. And this machine, this PET CT scanner, is actually a machine that detects the radiation coming out from the cell.
Right.
So when it does that, we are actually detecting the ongoing cancer process in the body. So we can actually detect the cancer cell.
Okay, is that like considered one of the roles in cancer management for patients?
Yes. So this
what are
is
the other roles?
The other roles, this I want to show you. It actually, this is what we have. Right? You have the structural imaging, you have the PET scan, and when you combine the two, you get more information. A CT, a PET CT. Right? So the main indication, the main users is actually with one scan, you can actually detect all the cancer lesion in the body. All right. Now this picture is fresh. It's a patient which I did the scan about half an hour ago. You see, with one scan, you can see all the cancer process in the body from head until the thigh.
So this
all
is
this
which
black
stage,
area
doctor?
this stage 4.
Stage
4. This stage 4. So, right, coming more to this, so we can actually diagnose. We can actually stage the cancer. You know, cancer has got stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and this is stage 4. Okay, so after that, we can actually see whether the cancer is aggressive or not. This is what we call grading. Okay? This picture shows that before we stage, it is stage 2, but after we do the PET scan, because it crosses over, it becomes stage 4. So when you change the staging, you change the management for the patient. Right? And then this one is patient, 3 patients, all with the cancer of the lung. You can see the different aggressiveness. Small lesion but very bright. Slightly bigger lesion, less bright. Very big lesion, not bright at all. So it tells you the aggressiveness of the disease process, the cancer process. Because the cancer will take up the radioactive glucose, and we actually detect the radiation coming out. So this is a different degree of aggressiveness. Okay, another role is after you have diagnosed, after you have staged, after you have graded, you want to treat the patient. Treatment is not by me, but treatment is by the oncologists and other doctors that refer to me. So there are many forms of treatment: radiotherapy, chemotherapy, hormonal therapy, right? But PET CT will provide us information on how successful is the treatment. For example, when we do structural imaging, before treatment, you can see all this lesion here, right? This is before treatment, and when you do a PET scan, you can see the activity. 8 days after treatment, you still see the same picture, but you know that it is not active anymore because you know that the treatment is successful. Only after 3 months, you will begin to appreciate, but we know this information 8 days, much earlier. So that is one of the strengths of doing PET scan, functional imaging. Right, so this is another example of a patient, a lymphoma patient, right? As you know, lymphoma we treat with chemotherapy, normally is 6 cycles. So this is before treatment, very high uptake. These are all the area of lymphomatous lesion. After the 2nd cycle, good response. So we will tell the oncologist, so he will probably continue until the 6th cycle. So we know this information much earlier. And for example, this algorithm is supposed to show you that in the past, we have to complete the therapy before we know whether there is change in the structural imaging. So now with early detection, if it is not successful, we go straight to the successful path. So we can save time, we save cost, save morbidity to the patient.
All right.
Okay?
So those are all the advantages of this scan in cancer management.
Yes, mainly. Okay?
Right.
Now this is mainly to show another one, stage 4, before treatment, after treatment. You can see total, complete recovery. And this is in color. You see? All the spine, no more. Right. Okay.
So most of the cases, they have to go through until stage 6, or it can be...
It depends on the oncologist.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes they will have 6+2, 6+4, depending.
But not earlier, not...
Normally it's not less than 6
Oh, no.
for the
Okay.
lymphoma. Yeah.
All right. So is there any short-term or long-term side effects of having this scan, doctor?
Actually, what we do in the medical context is those that utilize radiation, be it in radiology, radiotherapy, or in PET scan or nuclear medicine, the benefit must always outweigh the risk. use of radiation, there's always a small risk. But when we give the information to the consultant, he or she will use the information to manage the patient better. So the benefit must always outweigh the risk. And all the request form I will sift through. If it's not indicated, well, I will advise the doctor that we shouldn't do this case. Maybe we use other modality.
Right.
And our staff are all trained to make sure that we give the exact amount of radiation that is required by the disease process. It's according to patient weight and so on. It's all calculated, and we have a team of physicists and pharmacists to tackle this issue.
Right. Following to that, should there be any follow-up of this scan for respective patients, or and if there is, how often?
Okay. What happened is follow-up all depends on the doctor. But normally in my report, I would say that, let's say during follow-up, whether the scan shows positive or negative. If it's positive, I will advise them to have a follow-up to look at the response to further management. If it's negative, I would tell them suggest follow-up if it's clinically indicated, because they will see the patient, they will know whether they will want to do or not. For example, this patient is actually on follow-up. The blood test showed that the tumor marker is raised. All investigation, ultrasound, couldn't find anything, and when we did a PET scan, this small dot here is the cause of the increased tumor marker. You can see that a very small dot. So we are able to pick up and actually tell the oncologist, and he or she will manage the patient.
It's just above the abdomen.
This is in the liver. In the liver. And the other thing is, with this technology, last time when they do radiotherapy, they have actually a big field of area to give radiotherapy. But when I'm able to show you where the active area is, they can actually reduce the zone of the radiotherapy so that less normal cells are destroyed as compared to previously. So this is some of the clinical usefulness of the PET scan.
Right. Okay, so Dr. Ali, is PET-CT cost effective?
Oh, yes. As I mentioned, you see, with the result, the doctor can actually change their management. No point continuing the management, it is useless.
So you save a lot of time, and
save
then
a
you
lot of
skip
time,
certain
save
steps.
cost, and save side effect for the patient. Right? So and then all in all, although the initial cost is quite high, but all in all, when you look at the costing that you save from other factors, it's very cost effective. And actually, what is important is patient well-being and patient psychological impact. They want to know whether their treatment is effective or not. Okay? And we can tell by where this scan.
Right. Interesting technology, PET-CT. Okay, thank you, Dr. Ali, for joining us on Medical Today.
And thank you very much for having me. I hope my information will give some insight into this service.
Thank you. See you again, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
So, what cancer do you have?
Breast cancer. I'm having breast cancer.
So, what stage is it now?
It's stage 3.
So, when you first diagnosed, it was already stage 3?
Yeah, when I diagnosed already stage 3.
So, when did you realize?
It's actually 4 months ago. It's actually started with breast pain. So I go for a checkup for ultrasound, and then realized there's a mass there.
So, it was a few months ago?
Yeah, it's 4 months ago. The pain was just 2 days, and then I went for ultrasound. Then from there they saw there's a mass. Then they took a biopsy, took some sample, and found out it's a cancer.
Right. So you've been undergoing treatment with Dr. Cho for quite some time.
Dr. Cho, yeah.
Okay, so maybe you can share your experience and what is your expectation?
Okay. Actually, for now, I finished my 6 cycles of chemotherapy. Yeah. But I just
undergo chemotherapy for now. There's further treatment according to Dr. Chong. So chemotherapy, I feel, is just the normal side effect. Nausea, vomiting, a bit poor appetite, tired, yeah. But otherwise, it's actually okay.
So you did have a proper diet, for example, advised by the doctors?
It's actually, yeah, means we have to eat like healthily, just everything, consist of everything, all the nutrition that I need.
So how do you feel now?
Actually, I feel okay now. Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah.
So it means the treatment is giving you positive development, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how would you encourage your friends in terms of healthy lifestyle and to undergo treatment or screening?
I actually will encourage them, if you feel any symptoms that you are not sure, then you go for hospital earlier for checkup, so that you can notice it earlier and get treatment faster.
That was a very interesting and informational interview there, hosted by Nurata Amin, talking to Dr. Chong Kwang Jiet, resident consultant of Mahkota Medical Center, as well as Dr. Muhammad Ali Abdul Kadir. He's also a resident consultant at the Mahkota Medical Center. We're going to be taking a short break, and when we come back, we've got more interesting topics for you right here on the first episode of Medical Today, Season 2 on BNC. Hello and welcome back to Medical Today with Jared Ratnam. Of course, from what we were talking about, we have another very interesting topic, and based on social media statistics, here in Malaysia, we have almost 64 million users glaring at social media at any one time, and the numbers are growing. In the studio with me is Dato' Murphy Chan, the CEO of Icon Group and Vice President of Asia Optometric Congress, Professor Azrin Arifin, who is also an MOC Council member. He's joining us, or they are joining us, to share a little bit about the glaring effects of social media the world's seeing right now, and what is computer vision syndrome. For short, let's just use the acronym CVS right here on Medical Day. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. So we'll start with Dato'. Let's talk about what CVS, or computer vision syndrome, is. Maybe you can give us a little bit of an insight as to what it is as we get into this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having us in this program. Now, computer vision syndrome, also known as digital eye strain syndrome, is a group of eye and vision-related problems. It's the result of prolonged use of the eyes in front of this digital device. Example, computers, your smartphone, laptops, or tabs. Now, based on the statistics revealed by the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, it shows that every 7 out of 10 Malaysian workers who spend their time in front of the screen will experience eye strain. Now, this is in fact a very serious concern. As an optometrist, I do see an increased number of CVS cases in my practice.
Right. So when you talk about CVS, we'll come back to that shortly. Prof. Azrin, we'd like you to weigh in on this. What is Malaysia like compared to other countries in, say, East Asia with regards to what we're talking about today, which is CVS?
Thank you, Mr. Ratnam. I think when it comes to the use of social media, the habit is all the same. We don't really have data for Malaysia, but from neighboring countries, we've got good reports, and they actually agree with what Dato' has just said. I think about 80% of people who use digital devices would have this computer vision syndrome, and it's now known as digital eye strain. Mm-hmm. We've got studies done in India, interestingly, where they looked at people who are working on software. and a staggering 80% of them were reported, self-reportedly have digital eye strain. But really, I mean, if you look at scientific data, research papers that have come up from Britain, I think a good 50% of people would have that problem. So I think Malaysia is not too far from there.
Right. Hold that thought, Prof. We'll go back to Dato right now to find out about the symptoms of CVS, or computer vision syndrome.
The common symptoms of this CVS will be definitely the eye strain, and also sometimes the frontal headache that they will get, and also the muscle spasm. Besides that, they will also complain of blurred vision and also double vision, or we call it diplopia. Because of the prolonged use of this digital device at a close range, some sufferers will also complain of photophobia or glare at night. Now, we know that when you're concentrating at the near task, your blinking pattern will also go lower, and therefore irritation or dry eyes will come in. And they also will have mild eye redness at the end of the day.
Right.
Now, besides the eye symptoms, 60% of these computer users or digital users will also complain of neck and shoulder pain. Yeah.
So you've got all these other effects that come along too. Now, Prof, with such alarming stats, I'm sure there must be awareness campaigns that are ongoing within Malaysia. Are there any serious developments with regards to campaigns in order to give people more of an insight or an understanding as to how serious this problem is?
I think it's more of an awareness initiative, and I speak very proudly of the work done by the Association of Malaysian Optometrists with good support from the Ministry of Health through the good office of the Ministry of the Malaysian Optical Council. We've done campaigns, public campaigns, to get people to be aware of the fact that when they spend too much time, which everyone does these days, on digital devices, particularly before they go to bed or just immediately after waking up, that any problems that they have with their eyes need to be checked up. And as Datuk was saying, the symptoms are actually eye-related, environment-related, and also there's also the problem of having dry eye instead of just visual problems. So the Association of Malaysian Optometrists has done a good job. And public education is always an uphill task, that.
Right.
So we're getting there.
We're getting there. But as we get there, I'm going to digress a little to talk about something related. Pharmaceuticals, or you go to any pharmacy now and eye drops are so readily available for people with dry eyes, and that's not meant to be the case. Now, who likes to weigh in on this? Prof?
I do research in dry eye. I think there's so many dry eye drops on the market that one gets really confused about which ones to be used. And some are good ones as well, but they're not meant for all sorts of dry eyes. I mean, you have different severities of dry eye, and people that suffer dry eye because of or because they use digital devices are those people who don't blink properly, and they need more than just artificial tear drops. They need care in the form of advice and good examination to make sure that everything else is working in the right order and not just the eye getting dry.
Right. When we talk about CVS or computer vision syndrome, can this syndrome cause permanent damage, Prof?
Well, this is really a subject of contention. I think the main issue here is actually people getting lots of discomfort because computer vision syndrome or digital eye strain actually originates from the functionality of the eyes, where focusing and muscle imbalance get in the way. But when it comes to this more serious aspect of it, it's about the blue light that gets into the eye. And it's always an object of contention. But if blue light actually gets into the eye, the harmful ones, they'll, in the long run, will cause cataracts and also some damage to the photoreceptors. So that's what we call eye damage.
Right, but
it's
there's
really
a flip side to that. No, there's blue eye filters now, or blue filters these days. The list goes on and on. So I'm very sorry to interject, but to get back to Dato, let's talk about technologies that we have at this point, because we're very fast running out of time. So what are the latest and available technologies with regards to helping or aiding computer vision syndrome?
Yeah, truly we are very excited because today lots of lens companies globally have done a lot of research, and there are amazing products, lens, particularly for those spectacle wearers, that they can use these lenses. Now, first of all, I'd like to have this statement: not all spectacle lenses are the same. Okay, most of them go for just the prescription, or we call it layman term the power, or just to be able to see clear. But do you know that with latest technology designs, you don't just see clear like the plasma quality, you could actually see much clearer like Full HD or the 4K or the 8K. So the design of the latest technology enables someone who wears a spectacle to see clear not just the front vision, but also the peripheral vision. So that's about clarity. Now, besides clarity, with our new lifestyle, which we are so engaged with close work, it's important to make sure our two eyes are able to focus comfortably, because you can see clear but not necessarily comfortable. So this is a very important aspect which I always advise to all my patients, that they must make sure their eye muscles are well balanced, aligned, so that they can focus things clearly. And not forgetting the third component, which is to protect the eyes from harmful rays, as what Professor Azrin has emphasized. Yeah.
Right. Now, Prof, coming back to you, let's talk about the Optical Act 1991. Not many of us have read it extensively or have read it at all.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about this, other than the fact that it's archaic?
Well, it's too harsh a word, but I you know,
It's too harsh a word.
Yeah, I think it's they're doing the right thing now. It's going through amendment or perhaps a repeal. But I'm proud to say I'm on the committee, and we're working very hard to get it modernized and to include public health issues as well. And this is a public health issue that we need to address. And to control the profession, so that when it comes to what Dato was saying, people prescribing and dispensing corrective lenses for specific purposes, these are actually qualified people who are trained properly.
But there's also another bunch of optometrists, or batch of them, who are untrained, and they're out there working within the industry. And
well, when the new law comes out, the use of the word optometrist will be,
it won't be loosely used anymore.
Will be really protected.
So very interesting that you talk about the Act. Now, do you think, in your opinion, and say it as is the government doing enough at this point?
They are. They're very supportive, actually. The Ministry of Health
you jumped on that one, yeah?
is actually very supportive in our effort to get the Act repealed. And we're getting all sorts of support through the good office of the Malaysian Optical Council.
Right. Dr. Murphy, before we let you go, what's your advice to Malaysians with regards to CVS, or with regards to just eye care health?
I think very importantly, I would like to share, as a practitioner of optometrist, one simple message. Seeing clear is not enough. I think it's important to make sure that they not just to see clear, it must be comfortable, and they make sure their eye health is at its best. You see your dental checkup every year. Why are you not doing the same thing for your eyes? And one last thing I would like to emphasize is that for those silent sufferers, most of us particularly would expect that when they have eye strain after doing 4 or 5 hours of close work, is something they thought they have to live with it. I hope this program will then share with these people, we call it silent sufferers, that they know where to get the help. Look out for qualified practitioners or the optometrists, so that their CVS problem can be managed and solved.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for taking time off to be with us today. We've run out of time. We'd like to thank Dr. Murphy Chan and also Professor Azrin Arifin for joining us on today's episode of Medical Today. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
My
and
pleasure.
An honor having you on the show. Thank you very much. We'll see you again to get more advice from you sometime in the future. Stay with us. We'll take a short break and we'll come back right here on Medical Today, BNC. Hello and welcome back to Medical Today. In the final segment, we bring you something new right here on Medical Today in our season 2. We call this accidents and incidents. Now, accidents can happen at any time to anyone. So we're going to have a little tutorial or a little video to help you understand different things you can do in various situations. Now we have a first aid video for you, one of the first few we have right here on season 2, and this is a new thing for us right here on Medical Day. So let's take a look at our first aid video for our first episode on season 2 of Medical Today.
What? You want me to come today? Eh? Cannot lah. Tomorrow not possible. Okay, I got training. Okay, I have to run there. Not enough time. Okay, by the time I finish also quite late already.
Jack, okay, you're okay. Yeah, I'm with you. No worries, okay? No worries.
I hope you learned a little bit from what we showed you just now in the video. It was a very informative video talking about seizure first aid. Every week we'll strive to bring you a video like that right here on season 2 of Medical Today. Now, if you do have any questions for us, you have any medical conditions or medical doubts, please send us an email. Send it to ask, that's ask@medicaltoday.my, and we'll get the right doctors to reply to them right here on the airwaves. Don't forget, next week on episode 2, we'll be touching on the Bermuda Triangle of women cancers and how one patient was so touched by her doctor. On set with us next week will be Dr. Badrul Zaman and Dr. Loh Woi Chung. Stay with us right here on BNC. We'll be coming back with more for you on Medical Today. I'm Jared Ratnam signing off. You have a fantastic day ahead and a great weekend.